All right, here we go. I'm so excited to be connecting with all of you today. I have a little bit of a slideshow that we're going to go through to weave all the themes together. So let me just go ahead and start to share my screen. And this is just going to orient our time together for this first of four gatherings. And I'm calling this the Lunar Herbal Alchemy Intensive because it's a 4-week workshop that, really what we're going to be doing. I wanted to just frame why we're here. First, for the astrology. Astrology is near and dear to my heart. I wanted to offer us a space to chat about it, to learn about it more deeply. And I don't know if we're going to get to it today, but I have an app that I'm developing that might be fun for all of us to kind of connect with and work with. So, astrology, energy, herbalism, and community. Those are the four pillars of this intensive. And today we're gonna maybe I put that up front, integrate birth chart with transits. We're definitely gonna do that next year, in next week, but we're gonna set some intentions. We're right on the heels of the new moon. And I'm also gonna give us some herbal tools for us to work with for well-being. And so we're going to look at first at the new moon astrology chart, which the new moon was on the 19th or 20th, just a couple days ago. We're going to look at the astrology for today and tomorrow. And then possibly we're going to look and be able to integrate this in our conversations. I'm going to keep that astrology for you to the end because I want to make sure that we get through some of the herbal um, goodies that we've got going on here too. So this is the chart that I mentioned in the podcast for this new moon. And I wanted to point out something that I think is there's a few things that are pretty remarkable here. But the thing that we're really going to be experiencing right now is there's this see this big blue triangle. We've got Jupiter right here, um, kind of at what would that be like 10 o'clock, and then we've got close to 2 o'clock. You've got Saturn and Neptune, and then down at the bottom you've got the Sun and the Moon, kind of more towards 6 o'clock, and that makes a big blue triangle. It's what's known as a grand water trine. And that is part of the ubiquitous energy of the week. There's a lot of, but it's anaretic water. All the water signs are harmoniously speaking to each other. They're communicating. There's a lot of emotional energy. There's a lot of potential for emotional, intuitive energy. And so one of the things that we can do if we have time, once I'm done with this presentation, is to look at your own birth chart and really start to understand where is water present in your particular birth chart? How might this be impacting you in this week and for this lunar cycle to come? It's also worth noting that this trine, as I mentioned, is a part of a kite. So pretty close to 12 o'clock up there at the top of the chart, you can see Uranus is at 29 degrees of Taurus. That's the engine for this chart, as I mentioned in the podcast. And Uranus and Taurus is a very interesting energy. It's Taurus is fixed feminine earth ruled by Venus. Uranus is sending electric energy, motivation, realizations, revelations, inviting us to keep our feet on the ground, but also to buckle up because there's going to be some really neat revelations that have already maybe come through. And around what? Well, the sun and the moon are at the anaretic degree of Scorpio. So truths beneath the surface, hidden truths, things that may have been hidden for a very long time, realizations that we're having about ourselves, our value, our worth, all the things. And so let's look now at the astrology for today. I do a podcast about this, as you know, if you follow my Substack, but there's three things happening today. And one of them just took place at 11:14 a.m. Venus and Scorpio's quintile Pluto in Aquarius. And this is going to make this day magnetic. It's a really good day for creative transformation. Uh, Relationships, conversations can feel intense. Um, but it's a good intense. It's about no more illusions. It's about the truths coming out. And this is a really wonderful time, a wonderful aspect for manifesting. We're going to be doing this intention setting meditation here, but also for intimacy but intimacy in the sense of soul aligned creativity, deep authenticity for ourselves. And then Mercury is also trining Saturn just after we're done with this gathering. This is going to be helping us with mental clarity. It's going to be easy to see something meaningful, to communicate with wisdom, to communicate with maturity, because Saturn is in Pisces and Mercury is in Scorpio. So that's a really nice time for boundaries, for clarity, for writing, and also for things business oriented. And finally, today, this evening, we have Mercury trining Jupiter. Mercury's in Scorpio, Jupiter's in Cancer. This is going to give us a sense of optimism. So there might be a nice time to have uplifting conversations. It's a nice way to kind of close the energy of the week. If we think of this week as being Sunday to Saturday, it's closing the energy of the day. It's the sense of expansion and heartfelt understanding. And then tomorrow, we're going to already start to see. I wanted to say there's one important aspect that's taking place tomorrow, and that's in the weekly astrology here. But I wanted to say it's Sun sextiling Pluto. That's kind of a big deal. That's going to give us a really powerful kind of undercurrent Plutonian of transformation and insight. But this insight is Pluto is in Aquarius. So this is about moving out of top-down structures, moving into circular structures of power. And the Sun in Sag, Sun just moved into Sag. Sun's at the first degrees of Sagittarius, just left Scorpio where it was during the new moon. Sun in Sag is going to give this sense of Sun. Sagittarius is the archer. His arrow is pointed toward the galactic center, reminding us that we are all cosmic beings, that there is this sense that there's a deeper truth as to why we're here. So the energy is going to feel one optimistic. Sag is illumination. Sag is an old soul. Sag likes long trips, soul journeys. And that's going to give us this fresh energy. And then Pluto in Aquarius is going to deepen that light. It's going to sharpen our perception. It's going to help us see some more subtle truths. So there's still this truth being revealed energy through this week. Tomorrow's a really great day for clarity about your purpose. We're going to be doing some journaling here today, as we plant seeds. So maybe even clarity about our direction and the deeper motivations about why we're here. And there may also, as we connect to the reason why we're here, there's definitely a surge of empowerment as you connect to the real truth of who you are. It's not dramatic, but it's quiet and steady. And it's like when you really get that everything aligned and you can feel the thing moving. So this is a wonderful time to set intentions tomorrow, today, to review our path with honesty. And the word authenticity is coming up here because the universe is really helping us to step into the next chapter of what we're doing here. And so with that, I wanted to give us some time this is where I'm going to invite you to grab your journal if you want to. Grab a piece of paper if you can, because we're going to be moving this journaling into an intention setting exercise here in just a little bit. So grab a pen and paper, and I'm going to give us just a little bit of time to write down what your intentions might be for this particular week. And I wanted to share one more thing that's happening here. I offer this I'm going to offer this in a meditation tomorrow. But we have Saturn stationing direct this week. It's not an aspect, but it's a really big energy when a planet stations direct. And Saturn is in the sign, is retrograded out of Aries, where Neptune, if you remember, back into Pisces. And Pisces is about the culmination of our wisdom. Saturn really wants to help us create things right now. It really wants to help us plant those seeds. So this is a really good moon to start to wish and to vision our new future. So with that, I'm going to just put on some music for us in the background and invite you to, well, actually, I'm going to not put on some music. I'm just going to invite us to, I might even just pause the recording here for a second and just invite us to um, journal here for a second. So let me pause the recording. Okay. Hopefully you're wrapping up with your intentions. Pause this if you're watching this after the fact and take as much time as you need. But I wanted to push record again to just one of the things that came through when we were chatting was that if there's any thoughts that are resistant that are coming up, if there's any fears, on a different piece of paper, write those down too. So we're going to be working with those as we move into the ritual later on in this gathering. So go ahead and let the main focus of your journaling, whatever you're writing, be that you're visioning. But if something else comes up that isn't quite, the thing in the back of your mind, just give it a little bit of space. Let it be there. Write it down. Write it on a separate part of the paper that you can tear up and do something different with, or a separate sheet of paper. Okay, and with that, I'm going to start my share again. So we're going to get moving on to the next phase of our time together here. It's been a minute since we've all gotten together, so I'm really grateful for today for all of you who are able to join live. And I know there's a handful of you that wrote that said you're going to be here next week. So, okay. So we're gonna put this on pause, these intentions, and I'm gonna start to talk about herbalism because I want to offer a couple insights for us for the home apothecary that I was mentioning. But then we're gonna come back to a ritual. So keep this list, and I'm gonna give us something to do this afternoon, this evening, whenever you happen to find this recording. So I wanted to, as we're going through these 4 weeks, I want to start to talk about herbal actions and the ways that humanity has in the past used herbs, the way that herbs integrate into the body. And really everything that you see in the screen here, I wanted this to be accessible. And I mentioned in the email kitchen spice herbs. And so hopefully all these these things that you see in the screen, you likely already have them in around you, or you could very easily go get them. This doesn't have to be something that is not familiar. And so I wanted to share that one of the things that I personally love to do and keep on hand and just keep in mind for cold and flu season is an infusion of oregano, rosemary, thyme, and sage. All four of those are super potent antiviral herbs. And when you make an infusion of something, one of the ways to make an infusion is as I've pictured here, it's a cup of tea. You can also make an infusion. You can infuse herbs into an oil. You can infuse herbs into any kind of a solvent. Water is a solvent that's carrying their healing properties. So the neat thing about this particular tea slash infusion is that if you think about what you start to feel your throat get a little scratchy, or you could just feel like something's a little bit off. I love making a tea. I'll just put these four spices into a little tea strainer and I sip that tea. And if you think about what's happening if your throat's scratchy, those antiviral components are going pretty much directly to where we would want them to be heading. And this is something that's different from our understanding of Western medicine. In modern Western medicine, we're kind of conditioned is with everything with Western culture. It's a very like there's an immediacy to it. I want it, I need to get it. Amazon, give it to me ASAP. We're used to taking prescription drugs, even ibuprofen and aspirin, and just have it kick in pretty quick. Herbs have a different um, way of working. And I offer that it's actually the real true healing. When we work with plant medicine, we have the potential to forever shift our energetic timelines in our body. And this is why I think herbalism is so profound because, and I can tell you a couple stories of things, one example would be if you're using, let's take ibuprofen or aspirin. If you're using that for like PMS or something like that, if, aspirin was modeled after willow bark, white willow. That's what pharma made the NASID drugs to. They're mimicking the actions of white willow. But to somebody who's naive, you think, well, I'll just go get some white willow and then I'll just make a white willow tea. I'll make a white willow tincture. And if you've ever done that, you'll realize it's a little underwhelming. It doesn't quite kick in when you need it. And it's because it's working in a different modality. It's working within the system for white willow to work the way an aspirin or an ibuprofen would for muscle aches or PMS cramps, you really want to load it in the system for the 24 hours before you need it, which doesn't always happen in our modern day world. But one of the things that I found when I personally use a tincture of white willow every lunar cycle, that my need for the white willow, the ibuprofen, the aspirin, the pain relief, because all the ibuprofen is doing is masking, numbing, right? The white willow is actually medicinally taking away some of the muscle pain and the inflammation. I'm not quite sure how it does it, but the same thing happened when I was able to cure some UTI and kidney stuff. And this is just personal stories. I am not a doctor. I'm not diagnosing things, but I will tell you that once I was able to treat an illness with herbs versus a prescription, I used to have to go to get some pretty powerful drugs. If you've ever had a UTI or a kidney infection, you know that you need to get to the hospital and you need to get some uh, some things to help you in there quickly. And it can be a little bit unnerving to try to treat it with herbs. But once I was able to treat it with herbs, it never happened again. Anecdotal evidence, we can talk about this if there's more interest, but herbs act in a different timeline because they're working within the system. And one of the tenets of ancient and modern day herbalism is that the human organism is wired for health and well-being, not the other way around. Our bodies know how to do everything. One of the ways if an illness kicks in, it's because there's maybe a little bit of a forgetting or there's something's bottlenecked. And so herbs can work to remind the body how to heal itself. And then once the body heals itself, there's no need for a topical uh, number or something that comes in and masks something. The system is actually able to fix itself. Long-winded way of saying this antiviral tea of oregano, rosemary, thyme, and sage is energetically really powerful, but it's also it works best when you're really in sync with your body and you can feel the scratchy throat and you can feel a little bit of the soreness. The quicker you start to use herbs, and we'll talk about elderberry and elderflower next week, the more potent they can really help the system rectify itself. The other thing that you can do, I love to do a tea of ginger and honey, and those are also very gingers are really wonderful, warming and antiviral. So just things to think about when if you first get a sign of a cold or a flu this season. These are two little sets of infusions that I would suggest trying them out for yourself and see how they go. And as I say, when we're sipping something, the nice thing about this type of respiratory cold flu thing is it's often right around where we're consuming it. So it goes directly, it doesn't need to enter into the bloodstream. With this infusion, it's going right topically there. Okay, so now I want to get to the magical part of herbs, and I'm gonna suggest that you make a lunar elixir for this lunar cycle. And there's gonna be a couple things you need. You need a mason jar. You don't need to have it full of nice little fairy lights. I just liked that picture. Or something that's clear glass. Water. And if you've been with me for a while, you know I love to geek out about how water carries information and intelligence. Masaru Emoto is one of the old school guys who took pictures of water after he played Mozart and death metal, and he found that when he played, the Beatles love songs or something like that, these beautiful crystals, snowflake crystals, were reflected. And water has this ability to structure itself. So we're going to be putting um, clean drinking water into a mason jar. And one of the things that Masaru Emoto did that I'm going to suggest is I'm going to invite you to take these intentions that you have. You can do one of two things. You can take that paper. I would suggest to either wrap it around the jar of water, because that's the way he did. He literally would also just put words on the water like love or hate. And love, the words with love, the water structured itself in these beautiful snowflakes. When it was hate, it became this ooze of something that was totally unstructured. So I'm going to invite you to put this communication, either tape it around or put it underneath the jar of water so that this water that we're going to be working with, especially this week, is going to be able to receive those intentions. And then I'm going to invite you to grab your crystals that you like. Clear quartz is one of the safest and easiest things to use. If you use clear quartz, you can put the quartz right inside the water jar. Caveat, do your research. There are some crystals that don't do well in water. If you've ever seen selenite, if you've seen that, that's like the iridescent that makes selenite bowls. Selenite comes apart in water, so you're not going to want to put selenite anywhere that you're going to be consuming it. So just you might do a Google search. The other safe thing you could do is you could just put the crystals around the base of the jar. And the final thing I wanted to offer to use, we've talked about this a couple times, is a personal power object. If you've ever raised power, if you've ever done anything with magic, you will know, or religious stuff too. All religions do it and all magical traditions do it. If you think about what the symbol of the cross means and why that cross carries energy, I was just going through hold on a second. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. I was just going through, my aunt passed away and I got my grandmother's jewelry box and I was thinking, I was going through her jewelry box and this wonderful little thing came through and it says angel on my shoulder and it's my grandmother's birthstone. She was born on November 11th. And I was thinking about, because I was thinking to share with you, one of my favorite power objects that I got came from India, and it's a statue of Kali Ma. And it spent, I want to say, 20 or 30 years in some kind of a shrine. So this is an example of how a religion or anybody could use a power object to take on an energetic signature so that it's humming this energy. People do it with pendulums, they do it with all sorts of things, but you might look around your life and your space and just feel if there's something that draws you. And it might be a picture of an elder, it might be a ring, it might be a necklace, it might be a holy card. There's so many different things that you can use. And one of the things that I we can talk about this is you can also start to collect some of these objects and charge them up yourself. Antique stores are interesting places to find some of these things, but if you have anything ancestral or anything that's just been in your life around you that feels, I would say angelic or magical or powerful, take that object and put it near the crystals. Because that object, if you've ever worked with energy, is going to charge up and amplify the ritual. Okay, get back to my screen share here. Hold on, sorry, a second, guys. So let's get back to the ritual. So you have the personal power object, and the last thing you're going to want is a candle. And I would say one continuous candle that you can use throughout the week or throughout the month. If you want to charge this up for the whole month, I would at least charge it up for this week. Or tiny little candles, even little birthday candles can work. I love to have like they're like 4-inch candles that I'll anoint and charge those candles up too. And that's really for lighting the candle when you're spending time with this altar of sorts. But it's an elixir because it's water. And I'll get to the punchline that I'm going to be discussing next week or the weeks after. An elixir is meant to be consumed. So we're charging up this water with energy and information about your intentions. So for this week, whenever you have a chance, maybe it's just tonight or tomorrow night or one night this week or every morning, just check in with that little altar or that little setup. Put it somewhere that is maybe on your dresser or somewhere that feels like it's your space where people aren't going to come and mess with the crystals and look at what you're doing. Have it be somewhere that you can actually interact with it. And just even if you're just looking at it, but lighting the candle is another way to amplify and to call in the energy. And so that's going to be, I'm just going to start that for us this week, and we'll come back to that next week and see how you guys are doing with it. Any questions? Okay. Okay, so I wanted to just suggest and let you know that next week I think we're going to talk about personal transits. We'll talk about Mars and Mercury and Sagittarius. We're going to do an energy clearing, a heart opening meditation, and I'm going to talk about fire cider. Fire cider is the next thing for the medicine cabinet for uh, winter and fall. And I'm going to be sharing with you an herbal library. We've got some monographs for all the herbs that we've grown here on the farm, and I wanted to share that with you. And I also wanted to share with you really quickly, if you have the chance to grab your birth chart, your astrology birth chart, bring that next week. But if you don't, I am excited. Let me see if I can share my screen. I'm excited to introduce as part of this circle that there's an app that you're going to be able to interact with sometime soon here. So this is calling it the cosmic compass, but it's an astrology. You can put in your birth information, and this little app, first off, will just give you, this is me, sun sign, moon sign, rising sign. It's going to give you a quick snapshot. There's stuff like this on the internet, but I wanted to it's also going to give you some of the personal planets and show you, because a lot of people are but where the rubber starts to hit the road in astrology isn't the necessarily the outer planets. It's when they can start to feel the influence of Mars and Mercury and Venus, and those are very nice ways to really start to work with the energy. But it also is going to give you some sense of your life path, your natural strengths, as well as some challenges and growth areas. So I'm going to be sharing that link probably next week. And the other thing we're going to be getting into here is astro herbalism. So there's ways for, depending on your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign, this app is going to be able to help you see what herbs might be able to be used, you can use so that you can understand. Because It's called medical astrology, but it's also called astroherbalism. There is a way that astrology actually has classically always been linked with herbs. So we're going to be exploring that as well. All right, I'm going to stop the recording real quick and then see if anybody